Hold on, I want you guys to open to Daniel chapter 10. We're going to be talking about something else tonight, but I just kind of wanted to talk about, we're in this new season. We're starting today, actually, this season of prayer and fasting. And we've just been kind of through a lot this past year and a half, right? We've been through just kind of and in many ways we're still going through it, a real toxic season, right? And not just toxic for the body, but also toxic for the mind and for the heart. And so, fear is up, depression is up, anxiety is up, confusion is up, frustration is up. I mean, you name it, and there are more people experiencing it today than there was 2 years ago, right? Everything is just on edge. And so today we're starting a church-wide time of prayer and fasting. And I just wanted to talk about fasting for a little bit. What is fasting? Who can tell me what fasting is? Megan. Yes. So in a nutshell, fasting is basically giving something up to seek God. And I like to think of it like this, is that fasting is refusing to be comforted. Refusing the comforts of everyday life in order to seek God and hear from heaven. And I think that that's really key, because sometimes I think, we kind of pat ourselves on the back a little bit when we fast. We're like, look at me, look at what I'm giving up. It's like I'm doing this for God, when really there's nothing we can do for God. Really, fasting is something that we do to get God's attention. Right? It's something more than saying, God, this comfort isn't enough. The comforts of this life aren't enough. I need to hear from you. I need to receive something from you. And I want to read to you guys. You're in Daniel chapter 10. I want you to look at verse 2 and 3. I just want to read this real quick. This is the passage where we get our understanding of a Daniel fast. Y'all ever heard of a Daniel fast before? So no meats, no sweets. This is where we get that theology from, is Daniel chapter 10, verse 2 and 3. When he says, so Daniel had a vision, and he said, when this vision came to me, I, Daniel, it's so great that he identifies himself to help us. You know what I'm saying? He says, I, Daniel, had been in mourning for 3 whole weeks. So he was like, he had this vision. He was really toe up from the flow up. All right. He was going through some stuff. And so he was just so upset by this vision that he was been in mourning for 3 whole weeks. He said, all that time I had eaten no rich food. Okay, so no sweets, no like real decadent rich foods, and no meat or wine crossed my lips. So he didn't eat meat. And listen to this. This is something we don't really bring up a lot, but he said, I used no fragrant lotions until those 3 weeks had passed. So he didn't use like hand lotion. He didn't use like lip chap, like lip balm. Like he was like dry as a husk, all right? He was like, not only did he give up meat and really rich sweet foods, he also gave up lotion and lip balm and stuff like that. Some other translation says, I did not anoint myself for 3 weeks. He was ashy, okay? He was just like, he was real dry, and he was just uncomfortable. And the reason why he did that is because he was so upset with this vision he had. It troubled his spirit so much that he said, you know what? I can't live life until I know what this means. I just can't be comforted. Like I'm not happy with, this meat and this, like, I don't want any of this stuff. I just want to hear from God. And so he is in mourning. He gave up his lotion. He gave up his food. He gave up, all the good things that we love to eat. Right. And listen to this, skip down to verse 12. I love this because the angel comes. It turns out, God has sent someone to answer his prayer. And look at this. This is really neat. The angel said, don't be afraid, Daniel. Since the first day you began to pray for understanding. So remember, he was praying for 3 weeks. That's where we get 21 days, right? So since the first day you began to pray for understanding and to humble yourself before God, your request has been heard in heaven, and I've come to answer your prayer. So this angel's come to explain the vision that Daniel had. But did you guys catch that? Like this 3 weeks he was fasting, and you can read that passage. It's really cool. I want to encourage you to do it. But this angel was held up by an opposing demonic force and held him up for 3 weeks, and he was able to get through after that. So this whole time that Daniel was fasting and in this really sense of mourning and humbling himself before God to hear from him, the answer was already on the way. So I want to encourage you guys, as we go through this fasting season, it may seem like your answer's not coming, and it's really easy to give up right away, but I want to encourage you to keep going. Because God does answer prayer. So going back to this question of fasting says, God, I need you more than the pleasures of this life. It says, I need you to intervene in my life more than I need to be comforted by these temporary comforts. People in the Bible, they fasted all the time. They fasted for wisdom. They fasted for victory, for miracles. They fasted on behalf of another person or a cause, like the kingdom was at war. Or, they fasted for forgiveness so that God would show them mercy. Remember the story of Jonah? He went to preach to Nineveh. And, there was a lot of trouble leading up to that point. But when he actually got to Nineveh and he preached, the people humbled themselves. They put on sackcloth, ashes, another sign of mourning. They fasted for God to forgive them, to show them mercy. And so let me ask you guys this. What are some, and feel free to, ping pong, popcorn, whatever. What are some possible reasons that we would need to fast today? As in like right now, within the next couple of weeks. What are some things that we would need to fast for? Healing. Yes. A lot of people are sick right now. A lot of people in our church are sick right now. A lot of people in our community have been dealing with this for the past, year, almost 2 years now. And so, yes, Lord, come heal our land, heal our community, that people would stop dealing with this, right? What else could we possibly fast for? Yeah, absolutely. A breakthrough, right? A breakthrough in our mental health, right? This dark cloud that's been hanging over us. Lord, I'm tired of dealing with anxiety. I'm tired of being nervous all the time. God, I need you. I need you to break through. I need you to do something, right? What else? What are the possible reasons? Yeah. So fast, for people, right? For people that are making decisions, our government officials, right? Absolutely. Anything else? What else could you think to fast for? Yeah. What about some strength, right? Some passion. Say, God, I just don't feel anything. Lord, I need to feel something. I need to feel some kind of passion, right? God, give me some. I can't do it myself. I've tried to read books, read articles, read blogs. I've tried to have my friends hype me up, have my hype girl talk me up. It's just not working. Like, I need something, God, right? What about direction? God, what do you want me to do with my life? Man, that's one of the biggest questions y'all are asking yourself, even right now. God, and of course, it doesn't help that everyone and their mom is asking, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's like, I don't know. I'll let you know when I get there, Yeah, it's all this pressure. Like, God, give me direction. God, I don't know what to do with my life. Tell me. What about maybe like a family crisis, right? A lot of sick people right now, but a lot of people in financial turmoil, right? A lot of people that are walking through a family fracture, like a divorce. Lord, help my family, heal my family. There's something we're broken. My family's broken, or lost friends or family. Our nation, just the status of our culture, the division, right? The hatred, the violence, people turning away from God in numbers that we haven't seen before. And our world, right? All over this world, we don't hear about it a lot, but there's genocide, there's war, there's poverty, there's disease, there's persecution for believers in other nations. People are dying for their faith every single day. There are so many things that we need God to intervene. There's so many things that we can lift up to God and say, God, we just need a breakthrough. We need this. We need that. And so we're starting off this school year with a season of seeking God through prayer and fasting. And we're not doing it because it's something churchy to do or because it's something that we do every single year, but because we need God. We need God. And so I want to encourage you guys to find some way that you can fast for the next 21 days to be a part of this. Whether that's some kind of food fast, whether a Daniel fast where you don't eat meats or sweets like we just saw here in Daniel chapter 10, or maybe a media fast. I think if you wanted to free up some time to seek God, laying off social media, streaming videos, Netflix, that all, if you took that time and dedicated it to God, you would be a completely different person in 3 weeks. I guarantee you that, right? So maybe if it's not just a complete fast, maybe just some hours of the day. Like I'm going to give up 2 hours of my day that I'm not going to do any media. I'm not going to text anybody, but I'm just going to pray. I'm going to read my Bible. I'm going to do all these things. So find some way that you can fast in this season and then spend an hour, at least an hour. Pastor challenged us all to spend an hour of the day absorbing some kind of word from God, whether that's through sermons, messages, reading the Bible. Yes, absolutely do that. You have a thought, Megan? So I would say one of the best, whatever it is that you spend more time doing that doesn't involve God, so things that take up your time. And I'm not talking about school or anything like that you have to do, okay? You can't fast school, okay? All right? You can't do that. But whatever monopolizes your free time, and you know what that is. You know what you spend the most time doing. I would recommend giving that up for the next 3 weeks and using that time instead to seek God. So whatever that looks like for you, that could be a lot of things. Now, back in the day, a food fast was like people spent a lot of time preparing food, harvesting food, and so when they just hauled off and didn't eat for 21 days, that saved a lot of time, right? To be able to pray and seek after God. And so I think, a lot of times we do fast like this and people like nitpick over, well, what's a Daniel fast? What can I have? What can I have? And they kind of miss the whole point, which is seeking after God and seeking an answer from him, right? And so I want to encourage you, look at your schedule. Whatever takes up the most of your free time, give that up and put that time towards seeking after God. And I think that'll make a huge difference. Okay? Does that make sense? Does that kind of answer your question a little bit? Okay, good. So also to kind of go along with any other questions about fasting or this 21-day process we're going through or anything like that? Okay, perfect. I rocked it. All right. You guys all understand. I love it. Okay. So to kind of go along with this, thank you, Justin. I appreciate that. To kind of go along with this season of prayer and fasting and seeking God, we're going to start a new series of discussions tonight called Soul Detox. Soul Detox. And I want to start off by just having some discussions in our groups here. And so I want you guys to circle up with the section you're in. I want you to talk about these 3 questions, okay? What do you think can be toxic to the soul? What actually is toxic? What's written on the soul's biohazard box, all right? Things to avoid, all right? What do you think can be toxic to the soul? What do you think are the symptoms of a toxic soul, all right? When a soul is suffering from toxicity, what symptoms show up? And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your soul's level of toxicity, all right? 1 being very low, 10 being very toxic. And then why, okay? So take about 5-10 minutes, talk about these questions, and we'll come back. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about what makes a soul toxic and how we can detox from some of these things. So I hope you guys had a great discussion. And we're not going to dig into your answers just yet, okay? Because I want to get through some stuffs here. But tonight I want to start off by talking about detoxing from clutter. Everyone say clutter. When our lives start off as kids, our lives are pretty simple, right? But as we get older, our lives become more and more complex. And I'm sure you guys have experienced this already. I know in some of the discussion of our group, they said, even at school, they say, well, I feel like my school life used to be simple, but now it's just so much more. There's so many more layers of complexity with managing people's feelings and sharing the hot goss, the temptation to, y'all know what that is? Gossip. All right. Okay. I just wanted to make sure y'all were caught up with my super keen lingo. Okay. But and I'm not just talking about being busy either, okay? But cluttered, layers and layers of activities, priorities, responsibilities. So what's the difference between busyness and clutter? What do you guys think? What's the big difference? Yes. So busy, yeah, you're absolutely right. So busyness, you can have a lot of activity in your life. You can be doing a lot. You can be busy, but your life can be uncluttered. Clutter is complicated, right? What makes something clutter is that it makes things more complicated. And we usually don't even realize that we have clutter. It just kind of sneaks up on us. Has anyone ever moved to a different house? And you go to pack up all your stuff, and all of a sudden it's like all of these things, like this rock that you picked up from the park, like this map from Magic Kingdom you guys went to like 5 years ago. Like, you just collect all of these trinkets, right? You just get all of this clutter, and you don't realize you have it until you're going through it, right? You just find all this stuff. It just adds up. And just like that, our hearts collect clutter as we get older. Relationships are no longer simple and honest. You don't just say what you think anymore. You don't just say yes when you want to say yes or no when you want to say no, but relationships are flooded with all kinds of nonverbal communication and expectations and mixed in with personal insecurities, trying to figure out what they really meant, right? Why they put that period there in the text message instead of right here. What were they trying to say, right? It gets cluttered. It gets complicated. Or, decisions are no longer simply just a yes or a no, but we're plagued with all kinds of scenarios and FOMO if we make the wrong decision, right? What we're going to miss out on. The Pharisees added complexity to God's law. They made it really cluttered. I mean, the 10 Commandments were pretty simple, but then the questions started coming in like, oh, well, take God's command about the Sabbath, for example. Pretty clear. He says, don't work on the Sabbath. Keep it holy. And then the questions start coming out. Well, what constitutes work, right? And so what they proceeded to do was they classified 39 different categories of work to avoid. And let me just show you how complicated this got. They said that if you moved a chair on the ground and it made a little furrow, like if you're sitting outside in a lawn chair and you scoot forward and it made a little divot, they said that was plowing, that was work, you broke the Sabbath. That's how complicated and cluttered things got. And, Jesus' disciples were accused of harvesting on the Sabbath by plucking off little great, like walking by and picking off leaves off a tree. That's what they were doing. They said, you're working, you broke the Sabbath, bye-bye, right? Jesus was accused of doing work when he was healing on the Sabbath. So it's just this real complicated mess that they found themselves in. And like that, as we get older, we tend to make things more complicated than it should be. Life doesn't feel fuller, it just feels heavier, right? And it's like, I don't feel like I'm doing a lot with my life. It just feels like I'm heavy, right? And I want to tell you real quick, the symptoms of a cluttered heart: a hurried pace, right? You're just always trying to get to the next thing. You don't really get a sense of enjoyment from things because you're always being pulled somewhere else. And I didn't ask Nicole if I could share this, but I'm going to. Sometimes she is like, this is her to a T, okay? And I'm just going to expose her a little bit. But like, sometimes we're out somewhere and she's like, all right, let's go. And I ask her, like, well, where are we going? And she says, not here. All right. So she's like, we don't even have any place to go. But she's like, all right, let's go. Let's pack it up. Let's move. I was like, well, where are we going? Not here. Okay. All right. Fair enough. So, you're always in a hurry. You're always looking to get to the next thing. Another symptom of a cluttered heart is superficial engagement. There's no depth to your relationships. There's no depth to your thought process because you have too many other competitors for your attention. it's kind of the TV effect. We've all been raised on watching TV to where they could be talking about something like talking about war over in the Middle East, and now this, and there's an ad for something totally different and irrelevant. And so by the time you started thinking about this really serious thing that's going on in the world, next you're thinking about a Zumba, or not a Zumba, a Roomba. A robot vacuum. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we don't remember either, right? It's like we're always, our mind is 4 minutes segments. It's hard to go past that, and so we have this TV effect. We have no time to reflect. We're already thinking about the next unrelated thing. Our mind bounces from thing to thing. Another symptom of a cluttered heart is a lack of focus. Your attention is constantly divided, and you get anxious if something is taking too long, right? And let me tell on myself a little bit. I was actually reading an article the other day, and it was long, y'all. Okay, all right. Like, I'm a reader, and it wasn't like, okay, it was an article. It wasn't like pages, but I was sitting here reading this thing, and I got anxious. I'm like sitting here. I got halfway through. I'm like, and there's a lot going on in the day. I'm just sitting here like, man, when is this over? I'm scrolling to the bottom, like, well, how much longer is this? How much more time do I have to invest in? You get anxious, I lost my focus because my mind was just going, right? And it was a great article, but if something takes too long, you just start to get anxious, right? You get to the point where you don't do anything with care. You fail to pay attention to details. You just get, because you're just in a hurry. Your mind is always running. And one of the worst symptoms is that your heart gets squeezed out of love. You have so much clutter in your heart that you have the inability to stop and take time to truly care for someone because of everything else you got going on. I don't know how many times I've kicked myself because I've walked by someone, and it could be a complete stranger, and no one would blame me for not saying a thing to them, but I could be walking by and they're crying, and I'm just like, ooh, see you later, right? Some of y'all have done that. Don't lie, all right? We've all been there. So we're just in a hurry, We have every opportunity. I had every opportunity to stop and be compassionate, but I didn't. I was like, well, man, they must be having a bad day. Lord help them. The crazy thing is that all this happens accidentally and automatically. Just like collecting those vast amounts of doodads that you have stuffed in every nook and cranny of your room, Our hearts get cluttered with the complexities of this life. And you know what? To make our lives simpler, ironically, it's not that simple. It happens, getting clutter in our heart happens automatically. But simplifying things takes real intentionality. We really have to pursue simplicity. And in order to detox the clutter from our lives, we need to learn to distinguish the voice of Jesus from the voice of human manipulators. God never calls us to an intolerable scramble of activity. He doesn't want us to live hurried lives. We were actually created for deep silences of the heart. Some of us get nervous when it's quiet for more than 3 seconds. Just testing. All right, that was 3 seconds. All right. How many of y'all started feeling uncomfortable? Come on. Thank you, Emma. Thank you. You're being honest. I love it. I love it. So to battle against clutter in our lives is a battle to remain in Christ. And if you have your Bibles and you want to turn real quick to John chapter 15, I just want to read 2 verses to you where Jesus says in John 15, starting in verse 4, he says, "Remain in me, and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it's severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. Yes, I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing." What do you think it means to remain or abide, as some translations say, in Jesus? What does that mean? Yeah, absolutely. And, abiding, there's this really crazy story in John in the first chapter when his first disciples are starting to follow him. And I wish I had time to tell you all about this, but they seem confused. When John the Baptist was baptizing people, he said, "Look, there's the Lamb of the world." And they're like, okay. And they go follow him. And Jesus, like, rightfully so, he turns around and is like, hey, why are y'all following me? What's up? And they said, they almost seemed like they were just kind of dodging the question. They say, well, where are you staying? And he said, well, I'm going here. Why don't you come with me? But the word staying in that passage is the same word used for here in abiding. They say, where are you abiding? It seems like they were dodging the question, but basically they were all about this abiding. Like, God, Jesus, where are you staying? Because that's where I want to be, right? And so the disciples wanted this. So abiding or remaining in Jesus. So abiding, I want to share with you 3 things about what abiding is, okay? So abiding in Jesus, it begins not by learning about Jesus, although that is a part of it, okay? But you don't give your life to math just by learning about it, right? So abiding in Jesus begins not by learning about him, but abiding in Jesus begins by encountering him, by experiencing Jesus. It's easy to find someone that calls himself a Christian, but it's less common to find someone that experiences deep joy in Jesus. When we for reals encounter Jesus, the experience leaves us wanting more. Like when we encounter the living God in Jesus Christ, he seizes our attention, and we just have to have more. And here's the truth. You will worship something. We are created to worship, so we're going to worship something, okay? It's just a matter of what are you going to put in your worship box, right? What is it that you're going to put at the top of your life that you're going to worship? You will have your heart set on something, and the only way for Jesus to have the affection of your heart over something else is to experience his life-changing power in a very real way, which always surpasses everything else. And so you have to encounter Jesus to the point that he takes that spot of your heart's desire, and it changes everything. So we need to clear, one of the big things about this is we need to clear away the religious clutter in order to experience intimacy with Jesus. And what I mean by that is sometimes we mistake Christian culture for Christ. You know, we can do a lot of Christian-y things, but they may not bring us any closer to Jesus. Like, you can listen to Joy FM all day long and still not know Jesus, okay? You can come to church and listen to a million sermons your whole life, but you may not come any closer to Jesus. What is a lifestyle brand? A lifestyle brand. Anyone hear this term before, a lifestyle brand? It's basically they're products that market some kind of identity. Like, if you buy this, then the people that buy this are fill in the blank. Like, for example, Hydro Flask. That's kind of a lifestyle brand. It's kind of like when you purchase a Hydro Flask, it's not just to hold water, because you could put water in any old bottle. But when you buy a Hydro Flask, it's because, you care about, fitness, you care about health. There's a certain image that comes with it, right? I don't know if the Visco thing is still around, but, it's kind of a big, everyone's got a scrunchie and a big old metal thermos, right? And that's the epitome of cool, right? So that's what a lifestyle brand is. And if we're not careful, we can treat Jesus like that. It's just another brand that we can wear, just another lifestyle that we can have. And so we need to not just go through the motions of church, go through the motions of religion, but we need to push past that brand experience of Jesus to experience the real Jesus that we find in the Gospels. So how do we encounter intimacy with Jesus? Well, we can encounter intimacy with Jesus by experiencing him with other people. Intimacy with Jesus is found along relational pathways. When you spend time with people that love and experience Jesus too, that naturally it's contagious, right? Experiencing Jesus is caught more than it's taught. You can't really teach someone how to experience Jesus, but you can spend time with someone that's been with Jesus, and you just know, okay, this person knows Jesus. He got him on speed dial, okay? I just know the way that they always have joy, right? They always have peace. Like, they are always saying something good, right? And it's not just like a fake good. It's like a real good. It's a good, right? So, intimacy with Jesus, church fellowship, right? I always love this. Like, I want y'all to I want your church friends to just be your friends, right? That's what we keep everything separated in these little boxes. Like these are my church friends, here are my school friends, here's my neighborhood friends. We separate our life into wherever we go, and we keep everything so separate. But church fellowship kind of helps bring down some of those walls. When you actually come to church and you spend time getting to know people and you invest in those relationships, good things happen. When you have friendships with older believers, right? You don't just have to have relationships or friendships with people your age. It might be easier, but I tell you what, it's more beneficial to have friendships with older believers, right? Have a mentor, someone that'll take you alongside of them, and they'll pour into your life. And doing life with other believers, right? You don't have to always be having a Bible study when you get together with people from church. You can still go out to eat. You can still eat as many pancakes as you want. You can still mow the grass. Like, you can still paint a room. Like, you can do all of those things with believers that you can't do with anybody else, right? You can still go to the movies with them. You can do all these things. When you do life with other believers, that fellowship, that happens. You experience more Jesus when you spend time with people that spend time with Jesus. All right? Does that make sense? Y'all with me? Okay. And we can also encounter Jesus when we navigate our life by the true north of Christ. And what I mean by that is everything in your life measured up to, does this help me get closer to Jesus? Right? Does this thing that I'm doing in my life, does it help me to deeply explore or expand my relationship with Jesus? So don't just come to church and just be here, right? Look for opportunities to deepen your faith. Ask about everything. How is this helping me follow Jesus? And there's going to be some things where you answer and say, not at all. This is not helping me at all follow Jesus, okay? And that's all right. But prioritize the things that do help you get closer to Jesus. And those things that you can't avoid, ask or look for those things on how you can use them to grow your intimacy with Jesus. All right. So, like, for example, how do I become closer to Jesus at school? Right? You can't avoid school, right? You may not feel like school helps you get closer to Jesus, but you have to go. So ask yourself, how can I use this time at this place to become closer to Jesus, So abiding begins with encountering Jesus. All right?